Alex! No!
Terry, you gotta...
Tell him I don't have his fucking ledger!
Based on a true story set in 1971, a used car dealer named Terry is struggling on the brink of bankruptcy. His business can no longer cover its operating costs, and he eventually falls deep into debt with loan sharks. One day, 2 debt collectors arrive at his office and smash several cars after Terry keeps delaying his payments.
Fucking what are you trying to do to me, eh?
Fucking cartoon pigs on the telly. What, people call us that behind our back?
Any day, I swear, Perky. Oh.
Amid the chaos, an old acquaintance named Martin suddenly appears and offers him a major job that could bring in a huge amount of money.
I've got a proposition for you, Terry.
That night, they continue their discussion at a restaurant. Meanwhile, the film shifts to senior officials of the British intelligence agency MI6, who are discussing a dangerous criminal named Malik. Originally from the United States, Malik now controls a large criminal network in the UK. He is known for being ruthless, frequently bullying other businessmen, involved in multiple murders, and smuggling large quantities of drugs. However, the police are unable to touch him because he holds a powerful secret weapon. It is revealed that Malik secretly keeps compromising photos of British royal family members taken during their vacation on a remote island. These photos are stored in a bank deposit box, and this is the reason Malik is heavily protected.
Can I bend you to my will, Mr. Brown? I am smarter and better protected than Whitey thinks.
A young MI6 agent named Tim then proposes a covert plan to retrieve the photos. He intends to send someone to rob the bank where the deposit box is located.
Has anyone actually seen these photographs?
Yes.
So you want me to come up with something that avoids any accountability for anyone?
A few weeks before meeting Terry, Martin was actually arrested at the airport for carrying drugs. However, she was released with Tim's help. In return, Martin is tasked with finding someone capable of carrying out the bank robbery, and she ultimately chooses Terry. Terry himself is a former criminal, although he has never robbed a bank before. Desperate for money and seeing that the bank's security system is currently being upgraded, he becomes interested in the plan.
I have it for you. A bank. This is about getting into the basement where the deposit box.
I'll have to think about it.
However, after their meeting ends and Terry is on his way home, he returns to the restaurant because he feels he has left something behind. There, he becomes suspicious when he sees Martin secretly meeting another person right after speaking with her. The next day, while attending an employee's wedding, Terry quietly gathers his old associates to discuss the robbery plan. After a long discussion, they finally agree to go ahead with the operation.
Maybe that's why we could get away with it. It's time we stop fucking about, stop picking the shit from under our finger.
At this point, Terry is already married and has 2 daughters. Before marrying his current wife, he had previously been in a relationship with Martin. Because of this past connection, even though he begins to notice Martin's suspicious behavior, Terry still trusts her and continues with the plan. The next day, Martin and Terry visit their target bank, Lloyd's Bank. Since Martin has a safety deposit box there, Terry is able to enter the building with her and observe the interior without raising suspicion. Meanwhile, 2 of their associates take photographs of the surrounding area to look for potential weaknesses. They then discover an empty shop unit located just a few meters from the bank. From this, Terry comes up with the idea of robbing the bank through an underground tunnel.
We'll dig a tunnel from the basement of the shop.
To execute the plan, he contacts an acquaintance named Bombas, an expert in underground excavation.
But this is serious shit, my friend. A generator, lights, ropes, cables, the works.
To make their cover more convincing, Terry also asks for help from another associate named Singer, who will pose as the business owner of the rented shop unit. Before the operation begins, Terry asks his wife for permission, explaining that he will be involved in illegal activity in the coming days, although he does not reveal that the target is a bank.
It's for all of us.
At the same time, Martin secretly leaks the entire plan to Tim. Because of this, MI6 has already deployed 2 agents to monitor Terry's group from a distance from the very beginning. Eventually, the digging operation begins. They estimate it will take 2 days to break through into the basement of Lloyd's Bank. Everything has been carefully calculated, as they plan to enter on a public holiday when the bank will be empty. However, during the excavation, their heavy equipment causes vibrations that are felt in nearby shops and briefly raise suspicion from the police. Fortunately, the police do not inspect the basement of the rented unit, as no one suspects they are digging a tunnel toward the bank.
Round the clock, officer.
Use the jackhammer down there.
After this incident, Terry realizes they need someone to keep watch outside. He assigns his associate Eddie to monitor the situation from a hotel directly across from the bank.
I've got a good view. See the front of the bank, Marylebone Road.
The next day, Tim briefly arrives outside the shop to confirm that everything is proceeding according to plan. That night, he meets Martin again at a bar. Unexpectedly, Terry also shows up at the same place. From the beginning, Terry has actually been suspicious of Martin's behavior. However, in order to keep the plan on track, he chooses to act as if he does not know anything. Secretly, Terry even makes slight adjustments to the plan to prepare for a possible betrayal.
You following me?
Who's that you was talking to?
The digging continues. From the roof of a building, Eddie monitors the surroundings and reports via radio. Unfortunately, their conversations are intercepted by a government surveillance officer who is monitoring communications in the city. After hearing the suspicious exchange, he immediately contacts the police. At the same time, while they are digging, Terry suddenly falls into a large hole.
You right? I think so, yeah.
It turns out there is an old underground tunnel beneath the site, hundreds of years old. Inside, they discover numerous human skeletons. This discovery actually makes their job easier, as they no longer need to dig much further toward the bank. Once they are confident they are directly beneath Lloyd's bank, they begin breaking through the floor of the vault room. Since the floor is reinforced with steel, they use specialized equipment to penetrate it. However, after successfully entering, Terry does not immediately start opening the safety deposit boxes. He instructs everyone to take a short break because the room is filled with smoke from the drilling process.
We'll make the move into the vault after we take a break. We're knackered. We need to get some sleep.
That night, while everyone is asleep, Martin secretly enters the tunnel to search for her target deposit box. However, Terry had suspected this from the very beginning. Even after catching her in the act, Terry remains calm and pretends nothing is wrong, speaking casually as if he is not suspicious. Meanwhile, the police finally receive Eddie's intercepted radio transmission. The problem is that they still do not know which bank is being targeted, as there are many banks in the city, and the following day is a public holiday, leaving the city unusually quiet.
What about releasing the tapes to the radio and TV?
The next morning, the robbery finally takes place. Terry and his team break into all the safety deposit boxes while the police begin searching for the bank's location. The contents of the deposit boxes are extremely varied, including diamonds, cash, secret documents, and expensive wine. In total, the haul is worth over $3 million, an enormous sum for 1971.
Get the cash, the cash.
Yeah, Major.
From the beginning, Martin had specifically targeted deposit box number 118. However, Terry had already become suspicious. So when the box is finally opened, Terry takes its contents first. He is shocked to discover compromising photos of members of the British royal family inside.
Holy shit.
Shortly after, the police finally arrive at Lloyd's bank. The bank manager allows them to enter and inspect the premises. Eddie quickly warns his team via radio. Fortunately, no one suspects that the robbers entered through an underground tunnel. Since the vault door still appears intact, the bank manager assumes everything is fine.
Where's the vault?
Downstairs.
I want to look inside.
It's on a time lock.
Because the police still have not managed to identify which bank was robbed, they eventually change their strategy. Officers secretly place ambulances in front of every bank, hoping that if Eddie reports the presence of an ambulance over the radio, they can immediately determine the robber's location. Fortunately, before that plan can be effective, Eddie's radio accidentally falls from a height and is destroyed, causing the police to lose a crucial lead.
No!
Meanwhile, Terry and his team successfully escape with all the stolen goods. However, along the way, M16 agents attempt to intercept them. This is where Terry's cleverness becomes clear. From the beginning, he had already anticipated betrayal, so he deliberately arranges for someone else to drive the vehicle carrying the loot to mislead them. This sudden change in plan causes panic for Martin, as she fears Tim will see her as a failure and realize she has lost control of the situation. Senior M16 officials begin to panic when they realize their operation has fallen apart.
You think I'd betray you?
There are precedents. You'd better hope she does, Everett.
On the other hand, Terry starts distributing the stolen loot among his team members. Each of them receives a bag filled with cash and jewelry. While inspecting the stolen goods, they discover even more secret photographs. It turns out that not only members of the royal family are involved in scandals, but also many high-ranking government officials. The photos show them engaging in affairs and secret parties with women at an exclusive club. It is revealed that the club was deliberately used by officials for illicit activities in secrecy. The club owner secretly photographed and recorded everything as insurance in case he ever faced legal trouble in the future. Shortly afterward, Bambus and Singer decide to leave early, They escape out of the city to start new lives with their share of the money. After only the core members remain, Terry finally exposes Martin's betrayal in front of everyone. He explains that from the beginning, they had all been used by MI6. Cornered, Martin eventually confesses everything. She states that Tim only wanted the secret photos and never intended to arrest them for the robbery. However, Terry realizes that everything is likely a setup. He explains that Martin's arrest at the airport was probably arranged by Tim, so she would be forced to cooperate with MI6. According to Terry, it is too suspicious that drugs suddenly appeared in Martin's suitcase at the exact moment Tim needed someone to carry out the bank robbery.
You better come clean and tell us what this is really about. You lied to us, Marty.
And I'm going far away.
There might be someone else in this shit to cause us some more grief.
After realizing she had merely been used, Martin ultimately decides to side with Terry. Together, they begin forming a new plan to use the secret photographs as leverage in order to survive the chaos they have created. Meanwhile, the robbery case quickly causes a major public uproar across the city. The contents stolen from the safety deposit boxes include not only money and jewelry, but also sensitive documents and state secrets belonging to high-ranking officials. To prevent the information from being leaked to the public, the case is eventually taken over by the National Intelligence Agency. The situation escalates further when a businessman named Leo Fogel also discovers that his confidential documents were stolen in the robbery. The documents contain a list of corrupt police officers who had been receiving bribes from him. If the book falls into the wrong hands, it could expose a massive scandal.
Every payment I've ever made to you and your colleagues. We have to find those villains before your honest colleagues do. I'm afraid I've got some potentially bad news for you, Michael.
That afternoon, as agreed, Terry meets Tim at a subway station. At first, Tim appears confident, as he has secretly brought 2 other MI6 agents with him. However, Terry immediately warns him that if they attempt any betrayal, all the secret photographs will be sent directly to the media. Terry then lays out his terms. If MI6 wants the photos back, they must guarantee the safety of him and his entire team. He demands new passports, new identities, and official documents confirming that they are cleared of all robbery charges.
You've opened Pandora's box, you dumb prick. That's why.
You got until 4 p.m. to confirm we have a deal.
MI6's senior officials are thrown into panic when they realize the photographs are in Terry's possession. It turns out that not only members of the royal family are implicated in scandals, but also several high-ranking MI6 officials themselves. One senior officer even realizes he was personally captured in photos taken at the secret club. As a result, they are forced to accept all of Terry's demands.
Apparently, there was a whole rogues gallery stored in one of the boxes.
This operation is about recovering the photos from Michael X.
On the other hand, after conducting his own investigation, Fogel eventually tracks down one of Terry's associates named Dave. Coincidentally, Dave was seen at the bank the day before the robbery, allowing his trail to be identified. Without hesitation, Fogel's men kidnap him and interrogate him brutally.
Where's my stuff?
I don't know.
I would love to say this is not going to hurt.
Meanwhile, corrupt police officers working for Fogel raid Terry's used car business. Since Terry is not present, they instead take Eddie hostage. To assist the investigation, the police also begin broadcasting recordings of the robbers' conversations over the radio and media. Terry's wife is shocked when she realizes that the voice in the recording belongs to her husband, who is now a national fugitive.
Just stay put. Keep the kids inside.
You could go to jail for years for something like that, Terry. I couldn't stand.
Shortly afterward, Eddie's wife arrives to inform Terry that her husband has been kidnapped. Terry becomes confused, as MI6 was supposed to have agreed not to interfere with them anymore. In order to save Eddie, Terry eventually contacts the number left behind by Fogel. However, during his conversation with Fogel, Terry becomes confused again, as Fogel keeps asking about a mysterious book that Terry has not even heard of. Unable to answer correctly, Fogel assumes they are lying and immediately shoots Dave dead.
Terry, you gotta tell him I don't have his fucking ledger!
Afterwards, Terry quickly returns to the car they used during the robbery to search for the book in question. Once he reads its contents, he immediately realizes how valuable it is. The book turns out to contain a list of corrupt police officers who have been receiving bribes from Fogel. Seeing an opportunity, Terry comes up with a plan to save Eddie. He uses the book as leverage to force Fogel into exchanging Eddie the following day at exactly 11 a.m. At the same time, Terry meets Tim again to hand over the photographs that will be used for their new passports. He also reminds Tim to come to the subway station the next day at 11 a.m. It is still unclear what his true plan is, but Terry deliberately schedules his meetings with both Tim and Fogel at the exact same time, as if preparing a major trap for them both.
11 a.m. Paddington Station.
Over the past 1 to 2 days, several major events have unfolded. Bombas and Singer are suddenly killed by hired assassins. It remains unclear whether the killers were sent by the government or by powerful individuals threatened by the Lloyd's Bank robbery. Meanwhile, Tim secretly sends a female agent to infiltrate Malik's residence. Her mission is to confirm whether the secret photographs have any backup copies. However, her cover is blown, and Malik kills her.
Michael wants to see you in the garden.
Steal from Michael X!
That night, Terry begins preparing a strategy for the major confrontation the next day. He asks his associate Kevin to meet a clean police officer named Roy, who is coincidentally handling the Lloyd's Bank robbery case. Kevin is tasked with handing over the list of corrupt officers found in Fogel's book. The next day, their plan is set into motion. Terry and Martin head to the subway station to meet Tim. MI6 agents are already waiting there, but the passports and new identities promised by Terry are set to be delivered directly by a government official. At the same time, Fogel arrives at the location with his corrupt police officers. It turns out Terry has deliberately brought both sides together to make them clash. However, one of the corrupt officers has already anticipated the plan, and they immediately attempt to escape before the situation descends into chaos.
I've seen those two cowboys before at the girl's flat. It's a trap.
Honor this commitment. Your documentation and guarantees.
Once he receives all the promised documents, Terry immediately goes after Fogel. He is furious because Fogel has killed his close friend. Without hesitation, Terry attacks and kills Fogel's men. Shortly afterward, more police arrive at the scene. They turn out to be subordinates of Roy, the honest officer who had been assisting the investigation from the beginning. At first, Terry and his group are detained, but MI6 agents then explain the true situation. Once all the corruption is exposed, Terry is released and is even regarded as a key figure in uncovering the corrupt police network.
Place this man under arrest.
Yes, sir. What are you talking about, then?
Give you the certain Mr. Vogel's Book of Shame.
How did that happen?
Fucked if I know, just keep walking.
Tim is impressed by Terry's intelligence. In such a complex situation, Terry manages to manipulate all sides to save himself and his allies. Because of this, Tim briefly offers Terry a position within the intelligence agency, but the offer is immediately rejected. Sometime later, MI6 finally moves to capture Malik at his headquarters. However, when they arrive, the female agent who had previously infiltrated the location is found dead, reduced to skeletal remains.
Burn the house down. I want nothing of this place left standing.
In the end, Terry, Kevin, and Martin become wealthy from the robbery. They do not even need to flee as the government has erased all their criminal records. As a form of repayment, Terry transfers ownership of his entire business to Eddie for helping them throughout the operation. At the end of the film, viewers are shown several interesting facts about the real-life case behind the robbery. After the scandalous photographs of high-ranking officials are leaked, many influential figures choose to resign in order to avoid further disgrace. 4 years later, Michael X, also known as Malik, is sentenced to hanging after being proven guilty of murdering the MI6 agent who was sent to infiltrate his headquarters. Meanwhile, Fogel is sentenced to 8 years in prison for bribery and involvement in police corruption. The robbery carried out by Terry and his team ultimately becomes known as one of the largest and most infamous bank heists in British history.